Good day, my name is Benji Bicas from CRIM 2E. Today I will discuss the chapter 1 of CDI, Etiology. So what is etiology? Etiology, the word investigation, was derived from the Latin word investigatus. It is the combination of Latin word investigar and vistigar. It means to it in English it's mean to trace or track. Um, One of the history of the investigation is came from England. Number and the thief taker system. Thief taker were private citizens with no official status who were paid by taking king for every criminal they arrested, similar to the bounty hunters of American West. So dito yung thief taker, ang uri ng sistema dito ay binabayaran ng hari ang isang parang pulis na kung sinong makakahuli sa kriminal, binabayaran niya yung kada ulo ng kriminal. Sa tuwing makakahuli ito. Ayun yung the thief taker system. Parang kagaya siya ng bounty hunters of American West dun sa American West. Jonathan Wild was well known among the criminal element in London as brothel operation. Yung brothel by the way is siya, para siyang hotel na pinaggagamitan sa mga prostitute, parang prestuan ng mga gustong magpasarap ganon. So tutuloy ka na. London as brothel operation and the first great criminal mastermind in England. He conceived the idea charging fee location and returning stolen property to its lawful owners. So ayun na nga, sabi dito ni Jonathan Wild, kung sino man yung sinabi niya, kung sino man yung makakabalik sa ninakaw na pagmamay-ari ng ng iba, pwede niya itong bayaran. Babayaran niya yung kung ano yung naisole sa kanya. Ayun yung sinabi ni Jonathan Wild. The Bow Street Runners. Henry Fielding, the 18th century novelist best known, writing Tom Jones, can also credited with laying the foundation for the first modern police force. So ayun na nga, siya yung siya yung ng first modern police force, si Tom, hindi. So ayun na nga, si Henry Field, siya yung nag-establish ng first modern police force. He formed by a small investigative unit which called Bow Street Runners. These were a private citizens who were not by public funds but were permitted to accept the thief taker awards. So sila po, kumbaga sila yung private citizen na parang may katungkulan na pwedeng humuli o pwedeng yung mga thief taker awards. John Fielding, the younger brother of Henry Field, that is credited to give name with organization. He introduced the practice of raids, bearing firearms and handcuffs. Si John Fielding, siya yung is the one who give the name Bow Street Runner. Siya yung nagbigay ng pangalang Bow Street Runners. The London Metropolitan Police Met was created to the effort Sir Robert Peel successfully managed to have Metropolitan Police Act. So yung Met si Sir Robert Peel yung parang katulong dun sa Metropolitan Police Act of 1892. Criminal Investigation Division. CID was created and put in charge of both headquarters and division detectives. The CDI was placed under the civilian leadership of Howard Vincent, a London lawyer. So si Howard Vincent ang namamahala sa Criminal Investigation Division. Siya rin ay siya ay tinaguri ang London lawyer. Jack the Ripper murder was one of the most infamous crimes that CID and the London Metropolitan Police paid between August to November 1888, there is a series of murder happened in London that targeted prostitutes according to reports victim of murder being raped before being mutilated and left in the streets. So ayun na nga, si Jack the Ripper, yung sa ito ating sa palabas yung yung nakakatakot siya. Dito sinabi rito, si Jack the Ripper siya yung pinaka most wanted criminal doon sa sa lugar nila sa London. Kasi yung mga target niya is yung prostitute. Kumbaga nire-rape niya muna yung papatayin niya bago niya yun nga yung prostitute. Gagamitin niya muna bago niya patayin, sabay mutilated. Kumbaga pipira-pirasahin niya sa chop-chopin, ganun, sabay iiwanan na lang sa daan. Number 2, France. Ayun pala si Jack the Ripper murders. Number 2, France. Cardinal Mazarin. So, led the way is developing specialized detective he called exempt, but it is later on abolished by Napoleon Bonaparte and created Security of France, also known as Police de Sorete. So, exempt established by Cardinal. Yung exempt po ay in-establish ng Cardinal, but later on, inabolish ito ni Napoleon Bonaparte, tapos tinawag na itong Police de Sorete. Eugene Francis Vido CQ. He was the criminal and police informant who became the leader of the first Police Detective Bureau of France. Siya po yung yung naging unang police detective ng France. Vido CQ was maxim was it takes thief to catch a thief. Yun yung sabi nga niyan to kailangan mong gumamit ng kapwa magnanakaw para mapahuli ng magnanakaw. Kumpara sa akin ganun po. Was responsible for what has become known as French method of detective work. Yun nga, sabi niya kailangan nung mag-recruit ng isang magnanakaw para makahuli ka ng kapwa magnanakaw. Because it was Vido CQ contention that major crimes and criminals were best handled by criminals themselves. He quickly hired about 20 ex-convicts he had known as in prison. So, ayun, gumamit siya ng mga preso sa kulungan. United States. Number 3 na, United States. Philadelphia Police Department. Credited as the first daytime paid police department in the U.S. Alan Pinkerton, America's founder of criminal investigation. He became the first detective in Chicago and pioneered many investigative techniques such as shadowing. Yun nga, shadowing yung pagsunod sa mga huli nyo, ganun. Surveillance, pagsubaybay dun sa criminal, and undercover operations. Yun yung sabi ni Alan Pinkerton. Francis Turkey became the pioneer detective in Boston. Kate Warney. So ayun, si Kate Warney, siya yung kauna-unahang babaeng naging detective. Was an American law enforcement officer known as first female detective in 1856 in the Pinkerton Detective Agency in the United States, and also responsible in protecting President Lincoln during the outbreak of Civil War. Kung si Pinkerton yung si Pinkerton pala yung unang kalalaki ang naging private detective, sabay si naman, Kate Warney ang naging kauna-unahang female detective. The Secret Service was created by the Congress in 1865 as Bureau of Department of Treasury to preclude the counterfeiting and forgery of products of the government monetary system. Taxes Rangers. Hindi, dito muna tayo. Sa Secret Service was created in Congress in 1865 as Bureau of ito sa Secret Service, sila yung yung tumatrabaho sa mga forgery, sa mga parang peking pera, yung mga ginagaya, forgery, tapos yung iba pa, forgery and product, pamimeke ng mga produkto, parang ganon. Yung The Secret Service yung doon. Tax Rangers was organized as the first law enforcement agency with statewide investigative authority to forerunner federal investigation. So, ayun lang. Stephen Austin, known as the father of taxes. Siya yung father of taxes. Parang siya na rin yung nagpaano ng Taxes Rangers. Interpol, International Criminal Police Organization, is a worldwide organization established to enhance cooperation among nations regarding common police problems. Was among nation regarding to the common police problems was founded in 1923 having 194 member countries. US became a member in 1938. Dito sa Interpol International, kunwari, taga Interpol yung, ito bibigyan ng example ko. Yung preso sa ibang, hindi, ibig sabihin natin hindi preso, yung may kaso sa Interpol sabay lumipat sa ibang bansa. Yung pinunta nung kriminal na bansa, pwede silang maipagtulungan sa Interpol para mahuli yung kriminal na pumunta ron sa bansa nila. Tapos yung US became a member yung US ay naging member ng Interpol noong 1938. So ayun lamang po. Good day. Thanks for watching my video. Thank you po.
My name is Castro Fernando Seti, and I'm going to discuss about the process of investigation. And the investigation is when you're gonna investigate or gathered some facts or something about someone or or recording about the examination or inquiry in the report. And the role of investigator is different from the role of attorney because the role of attorney is to support his client, like he need to prove that his client is not guilty in the court. And the role of the investigator is to gather the facts, collecting evidence like that, and information about someone or something. And the investigator is called the truth seeker. And the next one is the role of investigator is also different from the role of criminalist because criminalist is collecting and handling and preserving evidence which may have a significance in investigation. Like mm, yung mga criminalist ay sila sila yung mga kumukuha ng mga nagagather na information. Then yung investigator naman, siya naman yung kailangan na mag-identify kung sino ba talaga yung guilty sa kaso na yun. At saka yung kung sino man ang innocent sa kasong hinawakan niya. Or about sa mga nangyari din sa crime or sa victim. And the next one is trichotomy of criminal investigation, and there's three types of that. It's tools, training, and technique. Training is refers to the academic and technical preparation. Like dito naman sa training ay kailangan well prepared yung isang investigator. Kailangan din siya na well trained din sa may about sa mga ano bang tawag dito? About sa mga pag-handle ng mga cases. Like katulad sa may mga ROTC. Kailangan train din yung mga criminology student tulad namin about sa pagiging police. And the tools is the investigator needs equipment or devices that he'll need to use for the criminal investigation, like photograph and measurements like that. And the technique is um, it's more on the unique means and process applied in dealing with the varied crimes or and incidents. In sa may technique, may kanya-kanya mga technique ng mga investigator kung paano nila i-handle yung isang case. Burden of proof refers to establishing the validity and punctuality of allegation against the accused, which paramount issue in any civil or criminal trial. In criminal case, it is the prosecution who bears the responsibility of showing beyond reasonable doubt that the accused committed the alleged crime, rather than being required to prove his or her innocence. Dito naman sa may burden of proof is the of proof is also known as the burden uh, of persuasion, and the job of investigator is to prove that the perpetrator or the suspect that their innocence is in the crime that pinapatong sa kanya or ikinaso sa kanya na siya yung guilty dun sa may crime na yun, or um pina, dapat ipakita dito ng isang investigator kung tama nga ba talaga yung inirereklamo ng isang isang ano bang tawag, what you call this, isang victim or yung family ng victim sa nagawa ng crime, or what you call this, yung to prove that tama yung ginawa or isinumbong ng isang victim. Uh, Three types of investigation is criminal or overt, criminal or non-criminal investigation, reactive or proactive investigation, overt or covert investigation. In some way, we all know that the crime that we all know that the crime is an act committed or omitted or act committed by the violation of law. So the criminal investigation will include about the interrogation, evidence, collecting evidence and uh, preservation, and various method of investigation regarding in the crime. And the non-criminal investigation is yung mga ay pwede rin dito mag-conduct yung mga police and private investigator. And the uh, reactive and proactive investigation is a reactive investigation is one that is instigated on the basis of complaint registered by the victim or client. Yung dito naman yung nagsusulat kung ano yung mga reaction ng ng isang police officer na kino-complain sa may station or kino-complain sa kanila yung mga nagrereklamo ng mga victim or client sa kanila. And the next one is proactive investigation. Proactive investigation are investigation conducted by the police based on their own initiative. Dito na sa may proactive investigation ay dito naman yung kumikilos na yung mga police para hulihin yung mga perpetrator or mga criminal or the one who's commit who's violating the law. And there are three main types of proactive investigation. And it is decoy operation, repeat offender programs, undercover drug operation. Yung sa may decoy operation is there are two types of it. And it is the blending in the blending ay nagde-dress yung mga yung mga investigator or mga police na maging ay, parang civilian para hindi sa pagkamalo na mga police pero yung totoo nagpapatrol na talaga sila sa may area kung saan alam nila may mga crime na nangyari like mas I mean yung may mga taong lumalabag sa mga batas like yung mga sabong pag may ano bang tawag dito pag may ECQ nangyari na rin dito din sa amin kasi yung may isang pulis na nagpanggap na siya ay isang civilian dito sa area namin and sila yung mga tao dito ay habang may ECQ pa last month ata yan then ayun nga nagtawag ng backup yung police kasi nakita na may mga nagsasabong mga nagsusugahan tapos mga wala pang face mask kaya ayun nakahuli din sila yung mga police about sa mga lumalabag sa batas or sa law na pinagawa ni Duterte. And decoy operation is sila naman yung mga nagpapanggap na mga businesswomen, I mean business people, nurses, tourists, prostitute, blind people, or I mean basta lahat ng mga positive I mean potential victims or like yung laging mga nabibiktima sa mga crime scene tulad ng mga ninanakawan like that or mga dudukot ng mga kriminal. Undercover drug operation is the investigator is doing is like what you call this nagpapanggap yung mga nagpapanggap yung mga investigator about I mean nagpapanggap sila na sila ay mga buyer ng mga drugs and ayun nga pupuntahan nila yung mga positive na alam nilang ayun nga mga seller ng drug I mean illegal drugs. So pag nagbenta or naglabas na ng drugs or illegal drugs yung target nila ay doon na nila huliin yung drug seller. And dito sa may undercover drug operation ay may mga backup lagi na nasa paligid ng nagpapanggap na buyer. And the 6 cardinal points of investigation is when, where, who, what, how, why. And tulad nito ng when did the crime or incident occur or kailan ba ginanap yung crime na yun and where and kung saan nangyari yun or and then who is the victim, sino yung the biktima, what happened, kung ano yung nangyari and how the crime incident to take place and why did the crime or incident take place, kung bakit nga daw nangyari yung crime na yun or incident na nangyari din. And the next one is the modus operandi records. Ito yung mga file or mga videos, mga records na nakuha about sa mga method of operation or modus of operandi. Ito yung mga pattern or records na ginagawa nila ng mga kriminal. And si Major General Sir Llewellyn William Atcherley in 1924 siya yung nag-create ng ay nag-devise ng word of modus operandi na inadapt ng buong law enforcement sa buong mundo. Yung yung sa may property ay I mean, yung sa may modus operandi ay may anim na following information, and it is the property, descriptions, observation at the scene, motive, time, peculiarities. And this six information is will help you how the modus operandi works. And in the property is how they stole something, or about I mean how they stole a property, kung paano nga daw nila yung kung paano gawin, or ano yung mga ninanakaw ng isang criminal. Like may mga criminal na yung puro pera lang talaga mga ninanakaw, or mga gamit, cellphone, ay yung mga lagi nilang target, like that. And it's one of the pattern of that. And the next one is description. Kung paano mo i-identify yung isang criminal or isang perpetrator, how they. And then the observation at the scene is kung ano bang tawag dito? Isa may observation at the scene is meron lang yung mga pattern na naiiwan sa may crime scene. Kaya minsan yung ibang mga criminal ay nga tulad yan nung sa may modus, ay hindi, sa may pattern ay nga yung dito yung nag-iwan yung mga criminal ng mga pattern para malaman kung sino man yung gumawa ng crime na yan. Or sa observation at the scene is makikilala agad nila kung sino ba talaga yung gumawa or sino yung criminal sa nangyaring incident. Sa may motive, ito naman kung yung mga motibo ng mga tao, like how ano yung naging motibo nila kung bakit sila pumatay, nagnakaw, like that. And the time is yung mga criminal ay it's also a pattern that they always committing a crime in the same time, like especially in the night time, or around 2 a.m. in the morning. Sa peculiarities naman ay dito nga madaling nilang makikilala dahil sa mga naiiwang mga evidence ng isang perpetrator. Madaling makilala ng mga investigator because of palagi niyang ginagawa yan, or naiiwan yung mga, or iniiwan yung mga markings or signs na nagpapakilala na siya yung perpetrator. And that's all for the chapter 2. Thank you.
Chapter 3, Methods of Obtaining Information. Pag sabi natin methods of obtaining information, mga pamaraan ng pagkuha ng impormasyon tungkol sa isang tao. Interview. It is the simple and friendly questioning of people who have the information officially needed by investigators. In interview, the person being questioned is usually ready, willing, and able to talk freely, thus providing his testimony on how the criminal incident took place, offering information in his own manner and wordings. Pag sinabi natin interview, ito yung pagtatanong natin para malaman natin ang impormasyon. Pwede natin tanungin yung ibang mga kakilala ng suspect. And types of interview used in criminal case. Background interview. This is the kind of interview that is focused only in obtaining data regarding the personal background of the subject, the simplest type of interview used in criminal case. Sabi naman dito, ito naman yung personal background ng isang tao na nasusubaybayan natin upang makakuha ng detalye, upang makakuha ng detalye sa mga pangyayari. Subjective interview. This is the type of interview wherein the questions are phrased in a manner such that the subject's answers are based on his personal opinions or views. Questions are designed to deal with the subjective aspect of the case. Sa subjective naman, ito naman yung pakikialam natin sa mga nangyari upang mabigyan agad natin ng solusyon ang isang kaso. Tapos sa objective interview, in this type of interview, questions are designed to acquire the basic and any specific data or facts regarding a criminal case. This is the type that complies with the 6 cardinal points of criminal investigation, the 5 Ws and 1H. Sa objective interview, ito naman yung mga layunin na kailangan totoo ang masinasabing impormasyon ng taong ini-interview. Sa the ironic format, the interview can be described by its acronym ironic, which stands for the following function. Identity prior to the commencement of an interview. The investigator should identify himself to the subject by name, rank, and agency. Report. It is good to get the positive feelings of the subject towards the investigator, such as friendly atmosphere is vital for both the subject and the investigator. Opening statement: investigator must have to indicate why the subject is being contacted. Narration: the witness should allow to tell he knows with little interruptions for the investigator. Inquiry: after all information have been given by the subject, that is the time for the investigator to ask questions to clarify him about the case under investigation. And conclusion: after the interview, it is but proper to close the interview with utmost courtesy and thanking the subject for his cooperation. Sabi ma. Yan. Rules to be observed in questioning. One question at a time to avoid confusion and avoiding implied answer, suggesting the answer to the interview. Simplicity of the question. Try to rephrase complicated questions. Saving faces. Avoid to embarrass ridicule the witness. avoid close-ended question answered by yes or no. Stage of interview in criminal cases. Preparation: the investigator should mentally review the case and consider what information the subject can contribute. He must acquaint himself with the background of the witness. He must plan his interview. Sa preparation naman, ito yung mga paghahanda na kailangan natin sa isang kaso. Tapos sa approach. The investigator should show his credentials and inform the subject his identity. This is designed to avoid misunderstanding, future charge of misinterpretation. Sa approach naman, dapat ang investigator ay ini-inform niya ang subject ang suspect tungkol dito. Tapos sa warning up naman, preliminary subject matter of the conversation must be focused to warm up the atmosphere to promote cordiality and trust of each other. Sa warning up naman, ito yung kailangan pag-usapan ng mabuti ng siya suspect at alagad ng batas upang hindi magkaroon ng gulo. And questioning, number 4, questioning. The interviewer should start questioning on points he wants to elicit. Elements of crime should be guide the investigator in his questioning. Questioning, ito naman yung pagtatanong ng investigator sa subject. Dadako na tayo sa types of subject interview according to their attitudes. Know nothing type. These are persons who are reluctant to become witnesses and usually belongs to the uneducated type. It may be remedied by extensive warm-up followed by persistent questioning. Sa know nothing type naman, ito yung mga saksi na gusto na matapos agad ang isang kaso kahit hindi sila kasama sa mga kaso. Disinterested type, uncooperative, indifferent persons must be aroused. His interest should be stimulated by stressing the importance of the information he passes. Sa disinterested type naman, ito naman yung mga maaari na maging testigo pero ayaw nilang tumistigo. Next, drunken type. Flattery will encourage the drunk to answer questions and develop interest, but always remember that written statements from yon. Sa drunken types naman, ito naman yung panghikayat sa lasing sa mga lasing upang makakuha na nila ng statement. Ito yung kahit lasing na kinukuha na pa rin nila ng statement. Suspicious type. Fear must be removed and the investigator should apply psychological pressure. Ito naman yung kung may pinanghilalan tayo, kailangan tanggalin natin yung takot upang di tayo mahalata inaano nating suspect, ganun. Parang ganun na po. Tapos sa talkative type naman, the investigator must find ways and means to shift his talkativeness to those matters useful in the investigation. Dito sa talkative type naman, kailangan ang investigator ay magaling sa ibang bagay upang mapakinabangan ang mga bagay na tinatago nila. Honest witness. Honest and cooperative witness, usually the ideal witness the investigator witness to. Yung sa honest witness ito yung witness na natapat sa isang investigator na sinasabi niya lahat ng totoo. Boasting type. These are idiocentric person. The investigator must be patient in dealing with them because they will be good witnesses due to their ability of expressing their accounts in the commission of crimes. Sa boasting type naman, ito naman yung mga taong mapagmataas na tao na hindi kayang makapag-ugnayan ng maayos sa investigator upang malaman yung mga totoong nangyari na krimen. Timid type. This is shy type of witness that should be approached in a friendly way. Timid type. Ito naman yung witness natin na mahihain. Yung taong kinakaibigan dapat. Tapos sa deceitful type, this is the liar type of witness who provides false and misleading. Ito naman sa deceitful type, ito naman yung witness na nagpapagulo sa isang kaso dahil puro maling impormasyon ang sinasabi nito, kaya lalong tumatagal ang isang kaso na hindi maresolba ng ating mga kapulisan. Interrogation. It is the vigorous and the confrontational questioning of a suspect about his participation in a crime. It is confrontational in the sense the investigator places the guilt on the accused. This process is also applied to uncooperative or reluctant witness. Sa interrogation naman, ito yung pananalisik sa isang suspect upang mapamin sa kanyang kasalanan. Kumbaga, ito yung yung kailangan tanungin natin upang ito yung kailangan tanungin natin kahit hindi sila nakikipag-cooperate. Types of interrogation. Narrative type. The interrogator gets the subject's story as narrated. Ito man yung pagsasalaysay ng mga pangyayari sa example yung sa mga krimen, ang nagsasalaysay nito yung interrogator. Question and answer type. If the subject is the investigator must wait until completion of narration and then ask questions. Dito pumapasok man dito yung bago sumagot, hintayin muna magtanong ang investigator. Yung bago sumagot ang suspect, dapat hinihintay natin yung investigator na magtanong sa atin. Purposes of interrogation. To obtain confession of a crime, to induce the suspect to make admission, to learn the facts of the crime, to learn the identity of accomplices, to develop information. This will lead to the recovery of the fruits of the crime, to discover the details of other crimes participated by the suspects. Technique in interrogation, ito yung emotional appeal. The investigator must place the subject in proper frame of mind. Tapos, sympathetic appeal. The suspect may feel the need for sympathy or friendship when is apparently in trouble. shifty blade. The interrogation makes clear his belief that the subject is obviously not the sort of person who usually gets mixed up in crime like this. Mass and Jeff method, also known as sweet and sour method. In this technique, these are employed. Matt, the relentless investigator who is not going to waste any time because he knows the subject is guilty. Jeff is a kind-hearted man that offers friendship to the suspect. Sa block of split pair. This is applicable when there is more than one suspect. The suspect is separated and one is informed that the other has talked. Pretense of physical evidence. The investigator may pretend that certain physical evidence has found by laboratory experts against him. Doiling may be applied to calm the nervous subjects by constantly observing the suspect. The investigator uses propitious moment to shout a pertinent question and appear as though he is beside himself with range. Psychological symptoms of grief. Yung number one, sweating. Pag sabi natin sweating sa tagleto ay pinagpapawisan. Tapos yung color change, yung ito may pagbabago ng kulay. Tapos dry mouth, to yung bibig, and pulse, yung pulso natin. Tapos breathing, yung humihinga pa. Confession and admission. It's a direct acknowledgement by the accused in a criminal case of truth of his guilt as to the crime charge or of some parts of the commission of the criminal act itself. Yung sinasabi natin sa confession naman, yung sinasabi natin sa confession, ito yung mga kilala, ito agad yung mga kilala nating akusado na may kinalaman sa isang krimen. Example, suwari, yung pantawag doon, example, yung tingin mo, ilang beses na nakakagawa ng krimen, tapos ilang beses nakala, syempre, yun na yung, akusan agad natin. Kasi kilala na kilala na agad natin yung suspect na nag-create ng panibagong crime. Yung parang ganun. Ganun talaga. Admission. It is the statement of the facts by the accused in a criminal case which do not directly involve the acknowledgement of guilt in the commission of crimes for which he is charged. Sa admission naman, ito naman yung mga hindi kilalang akusado sa krimen. Yung kumbaga kahit ilang beses silang makagawa ng crime, hindi pa rin natin makikilala kasi magaling silang yung kumbaga magaling silang magpanggap. Yung hindi agad natin mahanap talaga kung sino yung may ng krimen na ito. Rules to be observed in taking confession or admission. Confession or admission must be taken preferably in writing and under oath. Otherwise, it is not admissible as evidence. It must be written in language understood by the accused. If not, it should be translated to the language understood to the language or dialect known to the accused. It must be freely and voluntarily given. Under the 1987 Constitution, it must be taken in the presence of lawyer chosen. Legal requirements of custodial investigation. Article 3, Section 12(1) of the 1987 Philippines Constitution provides that any person under investigation for the commission of an offense shall have the right to be informed of his right to remain silent and to have complete and independent counsel, preferably of his own choice. If the person cannot afford the services of counsel, he must be provided with one. These rights cannot be waived except in writing and in the presence of counsel. Ito, yung 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 ano sinasabi naman ni commission of offense that have the right to be informed. No torture, force or violence, threat of intimidation or any other means that beshape the free will shall be used against him. Secret detention places, solitary, incommunicado or other similar forms of detention are prohibited. Any confession or admission obtained in violation of this section of section 17 hereof shall be if this section or section 17 hereof shall be inadmissible in evidence against him, the law shall provide penal and civil sanction for the violation of this section as well as compensation to and rehabilitation of the victims of torture and similar practices and their families. Article 3, Section 17 of the 1987 Constitution further state that no person shall be compelled to be a witness against himself. Jurisprudence dictates the correct procedure to be followed by the police officers in making arrests and conducting custodial investigation or interrogation. At the time a person is arrested, the arresting officers have duty to identify himself, inform and reason for the arrest, and show the warrant of arrest if any to the suspect, and inform the suspect right the Miranda rights. Yung sa sige. Yung sa Miranda rights naman siguro alam na natin to. Ito yung etong Miranda rights na to. Ito sinasabi natin to sa suspect upang malaman niya kung ano yung mga karapatan niya. Yun lang. Kasi ang isang pulis kasi bawal nilang huliin yung suspect pag hindi nila sinabi ang Miranda right. Kasi pwede sila ditong makasuhan pag hindi alam ng suspect ang mga karapatan nila. Yun lang po. Maraming salamat.
Chapter 5, The Crime Scene. Ano nga ba ang crime scene? Siyempre, ito yung lugar kung saan nangyari o naganap ang krimen, o may be defined as the area where a crime scene has been. Next, sino ang unang rumiresponde kung may naganap na crime scene? Siyempre, police officer. Sila yung typically when there is a crime incident, the first responder to arrive at the crime scene is the first law enforcement officer. Next, the investigator. Upon notification that a serious crime has been committed, the investigator is expected to respond immediately to the crime scene. Ito naman yung may responde sa pinangyarihan ng krimen upang manghalap ng impormasyon o testigo sa krimeng naganap. Next, assignment of duties. Dito naman, hinihiwa-hiwalay nila yung mga gawain dahil may kanya-kanyang specialty ang bawat empleyado nila. Example 1. Officer in charge. One who directs the search. Siya naman yung naninigurado sa crime search at may responsibilidad sa lugar ng krimen. Next, assistant. He must implement the orders of the OIC. Siya naman yung nagpapatupad ng mga utos ng OIC. Next, photographer. Siya naman yung kumukuha ng larawan o ebidensya sa krimen. Next is sketcher. Siya yung nagdodrawing sa lugar ng krimen at ng mga ebidensya dito. Next is master note taker. Siya naman yung nagsusulat ng mga nangyayari sa krimen. Next, evidence man. Siya ang kumukolekta sa mga ebidensya upang masuri ito. Next, measurer. Siya naman yung sumusukat sa lahat ng kaganapan sa lugar. Next is crime scene search. Dito naman tinatalakay yung pagkuha sa mga physical evidences sa lugar ng krimen. Response time. Dito naman may maximum time of arrival dapat pag may mangyayaring krimen. Next is critical time. Ito yung oras kung saan tumatawag na ang mga tao dahil may nagaganap na o nangyayari ng krimen. Objectives of the crime scene. Dito para makolekta ang mga impormasyon at mga ebidensya. Dito rin inaalam kung paano ginamit o ang mga paraan na ginawa sa krimen. Next, different methods of search. Quadrant or zone search method. Dito may isang tao ang maglilibot sa apat na sulok ng isang lugar o halimbawa ay sa kwarto. Example. Next, strip or line search. Dito ay may tatlong naglalakad sa daan ng dahan-dahan at sabay-sabay ng paparallel at isang side sa rectangle area. Example. Next is spiral search method. Dito naman sa dulo ang simula nila at papaikot papuntang gitna ang kanilang paraan. Ito ang example. Next, grid or double search method. Dito naman, kamukha lang siya ng strip search method, kaso dito, doble yung paghahandak ng searching. Example. Next is wheel search method. Dito naman, ang mga researcher ay nagsisimula sa gitna at maglalakad palabas ng bilog sa loob ng 6 quadrants. Example. Next is photography. Ito yung paggawa ng litrato sa pamamagitan ng liwanag upang makagawa ng larawan. Next, kind of photograph. Overall photograph, dito sa larawan na to, ay nakukuhanan ang bawat sulok ng clockwise ang kuha. Next, photograph of the deceased. Ito naman yung larawan na namatay kasama ang lugar ng pagkamatay. Photograph of article of evidence. Ito naman yung mga larawan ng mga ebidensya, halimbawa sandata o dugo na nakuha sa crime scene. Next, special photographs. Dito naman ay yung ginamitan ng photomicrography o cinematography upang makita ng maayos sa mga ebidensya. Next, procedure in photographing the crime scene. 1. General view or long range view. Dito sa larang dito dapat sakto sa eye level ng isang tao. Halimbawa. Next, medium view. Dito naman ay yung sakto lang yung kita sa lahat ng pinangyarihan ng krimen at dapat kumpleto ang impormasyon. Halimbawa. Next, close-up view. Dito naman ay malapit ang kuha dahil dito kinukuha na ng mga ebidensya sa krimen. Halimbawa. Next, sketch. Dito naman natin makikita yung mga bagay na di nakikita sa photography tulad ng sukat ng lugar at mga bagay. Merong dalawang example ng sketch. Ang una, rough sketch. Ito ay basayan lang para sa finished sketch upang mas ma-search na maayos ang finished. Next, finish sketch. Dito naman ay ginagamit na sa courtroom kasi nakompleto na lahat ng ebidensya dito. Next is specific kinds of sketch. Merong sketch of locality. Dito naman pinapakita yung mga pasukan o labasan ng isang lugar. Halimbawa, next, sketch of the ground. Dito naman ay yung pinakamalapit ng bahay sa lugar ng krimen. Halimbawa, 3. Sketch of details. Dito naman pinapakita na ang lugar kung saan nangyari ang krimen. Halimbawa, meron din tayong element of sketch. Una, title. Dito ay pinapakita yung lugar, oras ng krimen, pagkakalanlan ng biktima, at pangalan ng nag-sketch. 2. Legend. Ito yung iba't ibang simbolo na nakikita sa sketch. Next, 3. Compass direction. Dito yung nahanap yung north part ng crime scene para maayos na maisagawa ang orientation. Next is 4. Scale and proportion. Dito naman pinapakita yung lawak o sukat ng sketch. 5. Essential elements. Ang halimbawa dito ay yung mga ebidensya na nakuha nila sa crime scene. 6. Measurement. Dapat dito saktong pagkuha sa bawat sulok para sa sketch. Meron tayong reconstruction of the crime scene. Dito naman pinapaliwanag nila kung paano ginawa ang isang krimen. Meron tayong dalawang halimbawa. Ang una, deductive approach. Dito ay nagsisimula sila sa mga theory o posibilidad na mangyari upang makabuo ng saktong paliwanag sa tunay na nangyari sa krimen. Ang sunod naman ay inductive approach. Dito kinokolekta nila lahat ng impormasyon at saka nila ito ina-analyze upang makagawa o mabuo nila yung tunay na nangyari sa krimen. Meron din tayong kinds of reconstruction of crime scene. Meron tayong dalawang halimbawa. Una, physical reconstruction. Dito naman ay yung pagde-develop ng mga physical appearance sa crime scene base sa mga ebidensya na nakuha nila. Pangalawa, mental reconstruction. Dito naman ay yung conclusion na nabuo nila based sa mga evidence na kanilang nakuha. Meron tayong kinds of physical evidence na tinuro na dati last year, sabi ni ma'am. 1. Corpus delicti. Ito yung mga impormasyon na mahalaga sa body of the crime. 2. Associative evidence. Ito yung mga ebidensya na turo sa suspect. 3. Tracing evidence. Ito yung mga bagay na tumutulong sa investigator upang mahanap yung perpetrator.
Okay, this time I'm gonna discuss about Chapter 6, Collecting, Marking, Tagging, and Preservation. In physical evidence, we all know that ito yung mga nakikita natin ng mga ebidensya tulad ng mga corpus delicti, and these articles is the essential parts of the body crime, and associative evidence. These are materials which link the suspect to the offense committed, and tracing evidence. These are the subject which assists the investigator in locating the factor. When we say corpus delicti, this is the relevant article. I'm relevant lang yung mga articles about the crime. And the associative evidence is ito yung mga materials na yung kumakonekta sa suspect or kung paano niya ginamit yung crime. And yung sa tracing evidence, ito yung kung paano mo malalaman kung nasaan man yung isang yung isang perpetrator. Reconstruction of the crime scene. It is the statement made by the investigator after the crime scene investigation of how the crime is committed. Ito yung mga ginagawa ng mga investigator kung paano sila magawa ng mga teorya tulad ng deductive approach, yung gumagawa agad ng mga theory yung isang investigator bago mag-collect ng mga information or ah, mga nakukuha nilang mga clues or evidence about dun sa crime scene. And the inductive approach is kabaligtaran naman ay yung mga investigator naman ay kumokolekta muna ng mga information dun sa may crime scene bago sila mag-analyze and mag-evaluate. Then, gagawa sila ng theory about dun sa crime sa crime scene or sa crime na nangyari, kung paano nangyari yun. And there's a two kinds of reconstruction of the crime scene, and it is the physical and mental reconstruction. Yung physical reconstruction, ito naman yung babase sa physical na kanyuan ng crime scene. And the mental reconstruction, ito naman yung gumagawa ng conclusion about dun sa gumagawa ng conclusion base sa physical reconstruction. So, special methods of collecting specific physical evidence, and one is blood, and if kung fluid pa yung blood ay nilalagay nila sa test tube or ay gamit ng okay, uh, yung blood pag fluid condition pa ay nilalagay yun sa test tube gamit yung eyedropper. Then kapag mga tuyo na or mga natagpuan yung blood sa may mga clot, kailangan nila yun gupitin at ilagay sa mga or isil yung evidence na nakita nila. Then the next one is fingerprints. In a piece of paper, the paper should be handled with tongs and placed where the size permits into cell phone envelope, cellophane envelopes. It should be not folded unless it's very large, and and then on it on existing lens. Kailangan yung sa may mga fingerprints yung ayun nga yung mga hindi nga daw mga nalukot, hindi tinutupi kasi malaga nga ito. Kailangan lagi nilang talagang iniingatan lalo na yung sa mga bote o mga glasses lalo na pag nasa kailangan pangalagaan nila yun yung mga evidence na yun kasi ayun yung makakatulong ayun yung makakatulong kung para malaman kung sino yung perpetrator. And the next one is bullets and fired case. Nilalagay naman ito sa mga small box nilalagay sa mga small box na may mga cotton sa mga paligid ng mga box na yun para hindi magkaroon ng ignition or pagsabog doon sa mga bala. Firearms, knives, and tools. These are types of articles can be assured by means of string passing through per perforation. Hairs and fibers, it should be picked up with the use of forceps wrapped loosely in a filter paper and placed in the pillbox or envelope. Ayun nga, yung mga fibers ay nilalagay nga sa mga envelope, yung mga evidence na nakuha nila, tapos yung mga firearms din ay nilalagay din, ay dapat sisid nila yung sa may, nakalimutan ko yung tawag din yung sa may plastic, yung merong seal yung ginagamit ng mga investigator pag may nakita silang mga tools na ginagamit ng perpetrator. Sa collection naman ay dapat yung mga evidence na nakokolekta nila ay merong mga nilagay na mark yung mga investigator para malaman kung ano ba talaga yung mga nakita nila. Tulad sa marking, tagging, ay nga, dilalagyan nila ng mga mark yung mga evidence na nakukuha nila sa crime scene and Yung sa may tagging, every piece of evidence collected may mark must be tagged. Ayun ngayon, may mga tag na nilalagay kung ano yung sukat nun, ano yung tawag doon, sino mga nakakuha. Then the rules to be observed before the physical evidence can be introduced into court of justice. The evidence should be material, relevant, and computed. The the object must be properly identified. Proper chain of custody must be shown and proved. Ayun nga, dapat nga yung sa mga sa mga evidence ay nilalagyan nila mga tag, marking, and collection para malaman nila kung ano yung mga evidence dapat relevant ito sa crime na nangyari. What is chain of custody? It refers to a number of persons who handled evidence from the time of its discovery up to ultimate disposition of the case. This should be minimized as much as possible. The chain of custody is a tracking record beginning with the detailed scene notes that describe where the evidence was received or collected. Collection techniques, preservation, packaging, transportation, storage, and creation of the inventory list are all part of process used in establishing of the chain of custody. The chain of custody is established whenever an investigator takes a custody of evidence at the crime scene. The chain is maintained when evidence is received from another officer or detective. A clear documented chain of custody taking custody should be established through process that includes the following: taking notes, including documentation of the recovery location, the time that they recovered or received, description of the item, condition of the item, and usual markings on the or alteration of the item, marking and packaging of the evidence, sealing the evidence. Ito nga yung chain of custody is the tag that the investigator are using when they found any evidence, and naglalagay sila ng mga detalye dito tulad nga nung kung saan nila nakita, kung ano yung itsura ng evidence, kung maayos na ba, mga lukot-lukot na, o kaya kung ano man yung makita nila, kung kung saan yung location ng evidence, yung time, kung sino nakakuha, ganyan yung mga nilalagay nila bago din i-transfer dun sa i-transfer or i-receive ng ibang officer or detective yung isang evidence. The chain of custody record for all items collected from the scene must include the following: unique identifier, item description, identity of the person who collected them, time and date of collection, location where item was found. Ayun nga, yung katulad ng sinabi ko kanina, yung mga kung ano yung nakita, kung ano yung description ng item na nakita nila, or yung the evidence that they found in the crime scene, and who who collect the who collect or who found the what you call this, the evidence, time, date, location where it's found. Individuals assuming custody of the evidence collection through analysis, sign up chain of custody, document or otherwise conduct conduct a secure electronic transfer identifying them as contributors to analysis of the evidentiary materials. When the evidence is submitted to property and evidence section to a forensic laboratory, a receipt documenting transfer is obtained. To maintain the accurate and complete chain of custody, number one, limit the number of individuals handling the handling evidence. Ay nga daw, yung sa pagmamalikta nga daw ng evidence ay dapat ah hindi, dito dapat ay limitado yung mga nag-handle ng mga evidence, yung tulad ng mga mga upper lang nila. Then confirm that all names, identification numbers, and dates are listed in the on the chain of custody documents. Ay nga, dapat na nakalista yung mga documents or mga items na nakolekta nila sa isang crime scene. Number three, ensure that all evidence packaging is properly sealed and marked prior to submission. Ayun nga, dapat yung mga, iniingatan nila yung mga evidence na nakuha nila, dapat naka proper sealed yun, yung mga evidence. Number four, obtain, sign, or otherwise secure receipt upon transfer of evidence. Ayun nga daw, yung kung sino man mga nakakuha or naka-receive or nag-transfer ng evidence ay dapat ay nilalagyan nila ng mga signature kung sino yung nag-collect o kung kanino galing. Yun. Okay, the next one is record attached for every transfer of custody of physical evidence. Number one, complete description of essential items including size, color, serial number, and other identifying data. Two, date of evidence was received. Three, person or place whom or which received. Four, file number of the case. Five, person who received the evidence. Six, signature of the officer in the control of evidence room. Seven, title of the case. Eight, disposition. Ayan, tulad din ng sinabi ko kanina, the one who received should be signed and ayun nga, that mga nakalagay ito yung mga yung sa may record attached of every transfer. Dapat kompleto to yung sa mga magre-receive ng isang document or isang mga ano ba tawag dito? What you call this? Isang evidence. And the next one is alteration of evidence it is an act of mutilating, altering, and contaminating physical evidence. The alteration may be done either of the following ways. Intentional damage, evidence should be protected against malicious destruction, negligence and accident, utmost care against marking on documents, breakage and destruction of fragile materials must be observed. Natural case exposure of some evidence may result its deterioration. High temperature and humidity may affect certain types. Yung dito naman sa may alteration of evidence, ito yung mga possible na mga nangyayari sa mga evidence na pag-transfer nila ito. And yung intentional damage is ito yung mga intention ng mga ibang tao na sirain talaga yung isang evidence like yung mga papel, mga fingerprints or cloths na sisiraan nila, mga pupunitin, yung mga ganun, like that. And the negligence and accident is ito naman yung mga nagta-transport ng ng mga evidence or mga items dapat inoobserbahan nila, especially when the evidence or the items is like the glass or in the bottles and like that. They should be properly take care of that. And the number three, natural case, like it's from the high temperature like that. And ayun nga, yung dito yung mga natural na nasisira yung mga evidence sa dahil sa mga yung iba din tulad ng mga papel yung sa sobrang luma nag-iiba nga din yung itsura. And that's all for the chapter 6. Thank you.
Chapter 7, Investigation of Specific Crimes. Robbery or pagnanakaw. Article 293 of the RPC. Any person who with intent to gain shall take any personal property belonging to another by means of violence against or intimidation of any person or by using force upon anything shall be guilty of robbery. Dito. Sinasabi dito sa Article 293 ay ang paggamit ng karahasan o pananakop ay masasabi natin na nagkasala pa rin ang isang suspect. Elements: unlawful taking of personal property belonging to another. Sinasabi dito na nalabag ito sa batas ang pagnanakaw sa iba. Number 2, the taking is with intent to gain animus lucrandi. Ito naman ay paghahangad natin na makuha yung gusto natin sa maling paraan. Example, yung magnakaw tayo ng malaking halaga, ganun. The taking is done with violence against or intimidation of person or force upon things. Pili natin makukuha ang gusto natin gamit ang ating persa. So pare ginamitan natin ng dahas. Yung ganun. Classification of robbery. Articles 294 to 97 and 298 revised penal code. Robbery with violence against or intimidation of persons. Ito naman yung nagiging violent na tayo. Yung parang gusto nating manakit. Tapos, Article 299 and 302, Revised Penal Code, Robbery with Force upon things. Ito naman, yung sasabi dito, parang katulad lang siya sa number 1. Pero dito naman sa number 2, ang pinagkaiba lang ay yung gagamitin natin yung lakas natin upang mapagnakaw tayo. Tapos yung meaning of intent to gain. Intent to gain means intent to obtain from the appropriation of the thing some utility, advantage, or benefit. Meaning of unlawful taking, it means appropriating a thing belonging to another and placing it under one's control or possession. Ito, sa physical evidence in case of robbery, yung sa tire prints if vehicle is used, yung sa bakas ng gulong. Pwede tayong makakuha doon ng example ebidensya. Footprints, yung sa mga bakas ng sapatos or paa natin or kahit basta may kinalaman sa pagtapak. Latent prints of fingerprints, yung mga daliri natin, pwede rin yan. Areas of entrance and exit. Yan. Kung saan tayo pumasok, tas saan tayo lumabas. Closets prints may be found in doorknob. Yung sa mga pintuan na nakasarado na binuksan natin, parang ganun. Desserts, pieces of furniture and bottles and glasses, ashtray, walls, stools, desks and tables. Bank robbery. Kinds of ito, bank robbery. Pag sa ating bank robbery, di ba, ito yung hold up tayo sa bangko para mapagnakaw. Tas yung kinds of bank robbery naman, amateurs motivated by greed want the desire for a thrill or the need for self-testing. Ito sabi dito, ito yung mga tao na ito yung mga tao na sakim. Ito yung mga sakim na magnanakaw na makakuha ng mas malaking halaga dahil sa kagustuhan nila. Tapos sa number 2 naman, professional is composed of criminals whose records consist of several serious crimes. They operate in small groups of 3 to 4 persons. They are serious-minded, free, confident, and often the dangerous. Sinasabi mo dito, ito yung mga tao na magagaling na kaya nilang gawin kahit 3 or 4 na tao lang sila sa isang grupo. Ito yung mga professional na magnanakaw. And kahit maliit lang yung grupo nila, kaya nilang mapagnakaw pa rin. Ito naman yung mga klase ito yung mga sa modus operandi. Target. Siyempre sa target, aalamin natin kung saan siya yung mga pinupuntahan niyang lugar. Siyempre aaralin natin. Tapos sa time naman yung oras, kumbaga yung oras kung saan sila magkakaroon ng pagkakataon. Craft or devices and instrument or weapon use. Yung sa instrument or weapon use, ito naman yung mga example, barel, kutsilyo, mga mga matatalim na na pwedeng pampatay ng tao, ganun. Sa police procedures in pursuit of robbers, immediate pursuit and alarms and notification, checkpoints and operation at the scene. Carnapping, Republic Act 6539 of 1972. Carnapping may be defined as the taking with intent to gain a motor vehicle belonging to another person without the latter's consent or by means or of violence or intimidation of persons or by using force upon. Motor vehicle is any vehicle propelled by power other than muscular power using public highways excepting road rollers, trolley cars, street sweepers, sprinklers, lawn mowers and bulldozers, graders, forklifts, amphibian trucks and cranes if not used on public highways. Ito sasabi natin dito sa carnapping. Ito naman yung mga magnanakaw ng mga sasakyan. Yung pagnanakaw ng sasakyan na may halong pananakot. Example, like for example, nagmamaneho ako. Tapos meron sa akin umanong mga sindikato, tinutukan na naman. Syempre, yun, parang ganun. And para makuha nila yung sasakyan ko. Highway robbery, PD 532 of 1972. Highway robbery is defined as the taking away of the property of another by means of violence against or intimidation of persons or force upon things or other unlawful means by any person on any Philippine highway. Ito mas sinasabi lang dito, tinutumbok natin dito yung pagnanakaw sa highway na kumukuha ng pag-aari ng iba. Example, yung mga nakaparking na sasakyan, pwede nilang nakawin yan, yung mga ganyan. Tsaka isa pa nagiging violent din tayo dito minsan. Cattle rustling, PD 533. Cattle rustling is defined as the taking away by any means, method, or scheme without the consent of the owner, erasure of any large cattle, whether or not for profit of gain or already committed with or without violence against or intimidation of persons or for sa fun. Ito naman, ang sinasabi natin dito, yung pagnanakaw ng mga hayop sa farm na ginagamitan nila ng persa, kahit malaki o maliit ang makuha nilang hayop sa farm. Tapos yung sa large cattle naman, shall include cow, carabao, horse, mule, as or other domesticated member of the bovine family. Goats are not classified as large cattle. Ito man sinasabi nandito, ito naman yung mga malalaking hayop may malalaking hayop na alaga tulad ng kabayo, kalabaw, at baka. Yun ang mga example. Theft or pang-uumit. Ito, yung theft, uri din ito ng pagnanakaw. Kaya tatalakayin natin yan sa Article 308 of the Revised Penal Code. Define the crime of the theft as an act committed by person who with intent to gain but without violence against or intimidation or force upon things, small take personal property of another without the latters. Sabi naman dito na ito ang uri ng pagnanakaw na hindi kailangan gumamit ng karahasan upang makagawa ng krimen. Upang makakuha na tapos yung elements naman, taking of personal property, the property belongs to another, the taking be done with intent to gain, that the taking be done without the consent of the owner, and the taking was accomplished without the violence against or intimidation of person or force upon things. Article 310 of the Revised Penal Code punish the crime of qualified theft. Ito yung mga maaring nating maging parusa. This is done on the following circumstance. Example number 1, if the offender is a domestic servant, if it is committed with a grave abuse of confidence or by the nature of the property which is either motor vehicle, meal matter, coconuts taken from a plantation, or fish taken from a fish pond or fishery, timber smuggled from an illegal cutting or of logs in public forests in the reserve. Investigate technique. Ito yung mga paraan natin upang makapag-imbestiga tayo. Number 1, establish the data and R of the theft. Know the complete list and description of the stolen property, the exact location of the property prior to the loss, reasons for placing the property in the location, and identity of the person who first discovered the loss, a list of persons who are present and absent on the time and data of the loss, movements of persons with access to the property, ownership of the property, person who know the extent of the property, estimated value of the property, salability of the property, suspect named by the owner, backgrounds and problems, interrogation of suspect, yung interrogation, record of all previous complaints, interview on all employees, physical evidence on crime scene which can aid in the identification and tracking of the perpetrators. Sunod naman sa anti-fencing law, FED 1612. Ano nga ibig sabihin ng anti-fencing? Tatalakay natin yan. Sa fencing is the act of any person who, with intent to gain for himself or for another, shall by receive, possess, keep, acquire, conceal, sell, or dispose of, or shall buy and sell, or in any manner deal in any article items which he knows or should be known to him to have been derived from the proceeds of the crime of robbery, theft. Ito. Pag sabi ating fencing, sinasabi dito ay ang ninako ng suspect ay ibebenta niya pa sa ibang tao kahit alam niya na nagaling na sa nakaw ang mga ito upang kumita lang siya. Sa naman, yun ang yung uri ng ng crime na fencing. Pickpockets are species of criminals indigenous in large cities or in places with many congregation and crowded transportation system. Skill is required for their successful operation. Most of them are known to the police. They are professional criminals with records in the police. The crime can be solved by means of the modus operandi. Sa pickpockets naman, ito yung mga mandurukot na magagaling tulad ng mga nakita natin sa mga lungsod na malalawak. Tas sila din yung mga kilala ng ating mga pulis dahil sa kanilang record. Number 7, parricide. Article 246 Revised Penal Code. Any person who shall kill his father, mother, or child whether legitimate or illegitimate, or any of his ascendants or descendants, or his spouse shall be guilty of parricide and shall be punished by the penalty of reclusion perpetuum of death. Yung sinasabi niya sa parricide, sinasabi din dito na kung sino ang pumatay sa isang miyembro ng pamilya ay dapat lang din itong parusahan ng kamatayan. Kumbaga sasabi dito, kung ano ang ginawa mo sa biktima, ganun din ang gagawin sa iyo. Yun yung sinasabi nating parricide. Sa Article 246 Revised Penal Code. Murder. Siguro yung murder. Ito yung pagpatay. Malalaman natin dito yung sa Article 248 murder. Any person who not falling within the provisions of Article 246 shall kill another shall be guilty of murder and shall be punished by reclusion perpetuum to death that if committed with any of the following attendant circumstance. Sa murder naman, ito yung mga taong yung mga taong nagkasala sa pagpatay. At alam naman natin bakit nangyayari ito. Kaya tatalakayan natin yan talakayan natin mamaya yan. Ito man. The intent to kill may be shown by the kind of weapon used by the offender in the part of the victim's body at which the weapon was aimed. 5. The killing is not infanticide or parricide as shown by the wounds inflicted in all violent crimes against persons in which the death of the victim is an element of the crime. There must be satisfactory evidence of the fact of death of the victim. Motive need not be proved in the criminal prosecution, but the determination of the motive will furnish a good clue in the solution of the crime. Common motives of killing another person. Ito yung mga mga sasama natin. So, number 1, revenge. Yung parang may nakaalitan tayo. Love. Example, love triangle, yung third party, mga ganun. Degeneracy, financial gain, and tas robbery, yung pagnanakaw. Alcohol, yung mga nakainom. Tas mental condition, yung mga may sakit sa pag-iisip. Motives killing are done by insane criminals, dying declarations made under a consciousness of an impending death may be received in a criminal case wherein his death is the suspect of inquiry as evidence of the cause and surrounding circumstances of such death. Mali pala. Ito pala yung ulitin ko po, yung sa ulitin ko yung sa murder. Nagkamali ako. Article 248, ito yung mga elements, hindi ko napansin kasi. Ito yung mga elements sa pagpatay. Ito yung elements: a person was killed, the accused killed the deceased, the killing was attended by any of the qualifying circumstances mentioned in Article 248, and the killing is not parricide, infanticide, homicide. Ito na yung homicide. Kaya pala wala ako. Homicide. Article 249 Revised Penal Code is a crime committed by any person who shall kill another without the attendance of any circumstance mentioned in Article 248. Ano siya sabi naman dito? Ito sa ayan. Sinasabi nandito. Kumbaga, sinasabi dito na pag nakapatay ng isang tao, syempre hindi ka magpapakilala. Hindi magpapakilala nagkasala. Yung ganun yung sasabi na pag tinutukoy kung sino yung nagkasala pero hindi aamin. The intent to kill may be shown by the kind of weapon used by a offender and the part of the victim's body at which the weapon was aimed. The killing is not infanticide or parricide as shown by the wounds inflicted in all violent crimes against person in which the death of the victim is an element of the crime. There must be satisfactory evidence of the fact of death of the victim. Motive need not be proved in the criminal prosecution, but the determination of the motive will furnish a good clue in the solution of the crime. Ito may yung mga common motives of killing another person. Ito yung sorry pa nagkamali ako kanina. Ito pala yung sa homicide. Yung mga mga daylan. Ito. Revenge. Pag nagkaroon tayo ng kalitan, syempre pwede natin siyang balikan. Love. Ito yung sumari, mga love, yung sa love triangle, mga ganun, yung third party, ganun. Degeneracy, financial gain, and robbery, syempre pag nanakaw. Alcohol, pag nakiinom, pag lasing na, ganun. Mental condition, ito yung mga sa pag-iisip. Motive is killing are done by insane criminals dying. Declaration made under a consciousness of an impending death may be received in a criminal case wherein his death is the subject of inquiry as evidence of the cause and surrounding circumstance of such death. 10. Rape. Article 266 of the RPC rape is committed. Number 1. By a man who shall have carnal knowledge of a woman under any of the following circumstance. But ito sa number 1, yung sinasabi yung sa pilitan na pangyayari kahit ayaw ng babae. Letter A. through force or intimidation. Ito yung yung tatakutin ng lalaki yung babae. B. Woman is deprived of reason or unconsciousness. Sabi naman ito yung sasabi na, ito naman yung mga walang kamalay-malay, yung babae na bibiktimahin sila na mabibiktima sila ng rapist. C. Fraudulent machination or grave abuse of authority by statutory. Ito naman yung masaklap na pang-abuso, ang pangagasa ayon sa batas. Ito naman, yung offended party is under 12 or is demented. Ito naman yung mga batang babae na wala pang 12 ang edad ay nakakakuha na sila ng demensya. By any person who, under any of the circumstances mentioned in part 1, one shall commit an act of sexual assault by inserting his penis into another person's mouth or anal orifice, or an instrument or object into the genital or anal orifice of another person. Siya sabi dito, kailangan yung suspect ay dapat na ipasok niya sa ari ng babae or napano sa bibig ang kanyang ari. Yun yung siya sabi dito sa number 2. Article 83853, October 22, 1997. There is carnal knowledge if there is a slightest penetration of the male sexual organ on the female sexual organ. It is not necessary that the vagina entered or the hymen is ruptured. It is enough that the labia or of the female organ be penetrated. The character of the offended party has been previously uncased for is not a defense is in the crime of rape. The woman victim may be a prostitute or has given birth to several children or married. The fact that the illicit relation was done by any of the 3 qualifying circumstances for the crime rape is committed. Evidence that may gathered. Number 1, evidence of force or struggle. Ito yung ebidensya na malalaman natin na ginagamit natin ng lakas o pananakot. A presence of physical injuries of the victim. Ito yung mga nakuwang mga pinsala sa biktima. That's presence of clothing of the victim, offender, or bedding in payload cases. Presence of disturbed hair, soiled clothing, worried, exhausted, and prejudiced face of the victim. Yung ito yung di ba kasi pag kasi babae na, di ba syempre magulo yung buhok, ganun. And yung mukha parang magiging matamlay. Evidence to show sexual intercourse. Presence of genital physical injury, the contusion of the labia, presence of the laceration of hymen and vaginal smear may show presence of seminal fluid in the spermatosa. Yun lang po.
Chapter 7, Investigation of a Specific Crime. Ang una ay robbery. Article 293 of the RTC. Sila yung mga taong kumukuha ng mga gamit ng ibang tao sa kahit anong paraan sa pamamagitan ng dahas o ng palihim na paraan. Meron tayong iba't ibang classification ng robbery. Una ay Article 294. Dito ay gumagamit sila ng dahas o pagtatangka. Pangalawa, Article 295. Dito naman nananakit na sila sa lugar na di masyadong matao o grupo kung sila ay kumilos. Pangatlo, Article 297. Ito ay pinagtatangkaan kang nakawan base sa nangyayari o sa sitwasyon. Next, Article 298, dito naman ay sinasadya nilang magnakaw upang may makuha sila. Next, Article 299, dito nagnanakaw sila sa mga hindi masyadong mataong lugar o liblib na lugar. Dito rin ay may halimbawa ng mga paraan kung paano nila ito isinasagawa. Una, pagbasag sa pader, bubong o bintana. Gumagamit din sila ng mga kopyang susi o mga pick locks o nagpapanggap sila mga may otoridad upang makapasok sa mga bahay-bahay o lugar. Next, Article 300. Dito ay nagnanakaw sila sa pamamagitan ng kung magnakaw sila grupo sa mga walang masyadong taong lugar. Next, Article 302. Dito naman ay ninanakawan nila yung mga pribadong lugar o mga lugar na may mga sinasamba tulad ng simbahan. Meron tayong dalawang klasifikasyon ng pagnanakaw sa pamamagitan ng puwersa. Una, pagnanakaw sa mga lugar o building na tulad ng simbahan. Pangalawa, pagnanakaw sa mga pribadong lugar. Next, bank robbery. Meron tayong dalawang klaseng bank robbers. Una, mga amateurs. Sila yung mga taong sinusubok lamang ang sariling kakayahan o nasilaw sa kayamanan na makukuha nila. Pangalawa, mga professional. Sila naman yung mga bihasa na sa larangan ng pagnanakaw o binubuo ng 3 o 4 na grupo ng tao at mas delikado sila kasi planado lahat ng ginagawa nila. Next, carnapping. RA 6539 of 1972. Carnapping, ito yun naman yung pagnanakaw ng mga sasakyan nang di gumagamit ng kahit anong daan o pananakot. Next, highway robbery. PD 532 of 1974. Highway robbery ay ang paggamit ng dahas habang nasa kalsada upang manakaw ang sasakyan. Next, castle rustling. PD 533. Dito naman ay ang pagnanakaw ng mga sasakyan na di alam na may-ari sa pamamagitan ng karahasan o anumang paraan. Next, theft. Article 308 of RPC. Ito naman ay pagnanakaw sa kahit anong paraan. Next is anti-fencing law. PD 1612. Ano nga ba ang fencing? Ito ay yung pagnanakaw ng mga bagay upang makuha, itago o ibenta. Sila rin yung mga pickpocketers na makikita sa mga matataong lugar o mga syudad. Sila yung mga taong nahuhuli ng mga pulis o may record na. Next is parasite. Article 246 of RPC. Ito naman yung pagpatay sa sariling mga kapamilya na pinarurusahan ng reklasyon perpetua o panghabang buhay na pagkakulong. Next, murder. Article 248 of RPC. Ito naman yung pagpatay na maaaring parusahan ng pagkakulong habang buhay o kamatayan. Next, homicide. Article 249 of RPC. Ito naman yung pagpatay ng sadya dahil may galit o hinanakit sa buhay. Ang mga normal na motibo dito ay paggiganti, pagmamahal, kulang sa aruga, may makukuhang pera, pagnanakaw, maaaring lasing o may sakit sa pag-iisip. Next, rape. Article 266A of the RPC. Ito naman ay ang sapilitang paipagtalik sa isang babae sa pamamagitan ng dahas. Ang mga ebidensyang makikita rito ay mga pisikal ng sugat, punit-punit na mga damit at gulo-gulong lugar.